$456 billion. That's what Nvidia added yesterday. Almost the entire S&P's gain. And in 4 hours, Kevin Warsh gets a microphone in Wyoming. Good morning. It's Friday, August 28th. I'm Nick Fertucci with Ashley Reyes and Marcus Brooks. Grab your coffee. Yesterday was a one-name tape dressed up as a green close. Nvidia, Salesforce, 10 other S&P sectors red, Marvell beat and sold after the bell. Warsh's first Jackson Hole as chair lands at 10 Eastern.
Warsh. I did not sleep, and I will not pretend a 70% guide retired the long end.
You started with the mountain. The print was the week.
The print was Wednesday night. The mountain is in 4 hours.
Those aren't the same show. I know. I'm still ranking the one that printed.
Scoreboard first. Sunday we left, 2 week calls on the table, and the week actually happened. Walking out numbers, set as words. Ashley is 14 and 17, 2 under, 2-day skid. Marcus is 17 and 13, 4 up on her, streak of -1. Sarah stays 0 and 1. Dave stays 0 and 2.
I remember the cushion. I also remember 480.
Replay, because we score in public. Ashley, you wanted the 10-year closing this Friday, at or above 4.80. Marcus, you wanted Nvidia at or above 92 billion with a raise, and the stock holding Friday's 214 through today's bell.
96.2. 108. I'll take the print.
Of course you will.
That's a win. Clean. Revenue cleared by 4 billion. The guide cleared by about 4 more, and they put 70% on a year the street had in the mid-40s. Marcus goes to 18 and 13, streak +1. The 214 hold through today's bell is still live, though at 228, I'm not losing sleep for you.
Don't mark the hold, mark the cash. I asked for a demand quarter. I got one.
You asked for a chip print to beat a bond. That's the ranking I told you would hurt your feelings.
Wyoming can still get in line. The print's already paid.
Paid the stock, not the week.
Ashley, yours cannot be marked. The 10-year closed yesterday at 4.67, up a single basis point. You're 13 basis points short with a chair still to speak. That's not a loss, and it's not a win. Record stays 14 and 17, skid intact.
I'll take live. I wanted 2/10 on core or hotter, and a benchmark through 480. CNBC had the print. Wednesday headline up 2/10, annual 3.7, a tenth hotter than the Dow Jones call. Core 2/10 and 3.3 in line. I got the inflation face. I have not gotten the yield. Yet
is doing a lot of work at 6 in the morning.
Yet is why I made coffee.
2 sentences from Sunday. She said cost of capital was the week, not chips. He said a 92 billion print with a raise was a numerator, duration a denominator, and those were not the same trade. We said watch 480 against 214. 214 is already in the rear view. 480 is not. That split did not close Wednesday night, and I am not closing it at 6 on a Friday.
Wouldn't want you to.
Mixed is still a cop-out. We said that too.
Then give me the print, not the vibe. Marcus, numbers you can score. Then the sentence you actually heard.
96.2 billion of revenue, up 106 against a street cluster around 92. Data center 89 billion, up 117. Non-G. AAP 222 against about 209. Current quarter guided to 108, plus or minus 2, against visible alpha near 104. Then they did the thing they've never done. They guided a year ahead. Fiscal 2028. About 70% growth against forecasts in the mid-40s. Stock closed 227.98, up 8.7. Largest post-earnings rally since 2024.
Wait. Back up. 70%.
70. Cress's word. Reuters had her saying customer forecasts imply growth could double if supply were unconstrained, and that supply stays a bottleneck through at least January 2028.
January 2028. I love a date that far out on a stock that is a claim on cash that far out. I also think that's the scariest sentence in the print, because they just told you the governors are wafers, packaging, memory, and power. Not orders. That's a supply story wearing a demand costume.
Or it's a company that can put 70% on a year the street had at 44 and still call it a floor. I'd rather own the costume than fade it because the 10-year is 13 basis points under your number.
Jensen's line. Out loud. Then tell me if you believed it.
AI has reached its inflection point. Tokens are productive and profitable. Compute is revenue, and demand is accelerating. The New York Times had the profit doubling to 59.69 billion in the same piece. I believe the number. The adjective is marketing. The 108 is not.
See, that's where I disagree. The 108 assumes zero. China Compute gross margin steps down a full point to 74, and AP profit got a 7.777 billion gift from equity securities in the customers. That's the circular financing debate in a single line item. 13% of the profit is a mark-to-market on the people who buy the chips.
13% is not 89 billion of data center. Don't mash the financier with the foundry. I will give you the hitch. I will not give you the quarter.
Stillman her hitch. 10 seconds. Version where the 7.8 billion actually matters.
Fine. If hyperscaler capex pauses, Nvidia is the supplier and a financier of the pause. The 500 billion pool with 6 Wall Street houses is the company underwriting its own demand. A reported 12.9 billion Hugging Face bid, unconfirmed, looks like buying the ecosystem instead of selling into it. That's the strongest version. I don't buy it as the base.
I'll take the Steelman.
Don't get used to it.
3 Sundays and a Friday is a habit.
One Steelman, different patient, same chair.
Give me a level, not a vibe. What does this stock have to do today for the print to be the week and not a one-session squeeze into a speech?
Hold 220. Yesterday's close was 228. Wednesday's close was 209.66. That's first failure if this fades. The 52-week high is 236.54. I'm not asking it to tag the high before 10 o'clock. I'm asking it not to give the whole 8.7 back because a chair in Wyoming said the word inflation.
What does a 100 basis point margin step down do to that 220 if memory costs are the reason?
It makes me watch the 74 band plus or minus 50 basis points. A second cut is a multi-quarter reset. One cut is mix. They told you Vera Rubin is about 20% of data center revenue this quarter in full production. Mix can do a point.
Nix. Sure.
Mix. That's the word.
Hold that, because the index math is the part a listener can see without owning the stock. S&P closed 7,731, up 55 points, 7/10. NASDAQ up 1.6 to 26,541. Dow up 2/10. Russell up 3/10. VIX 1447. Translate the 456 Ashley. One plain sentence.
Nvidia's market cap gain was 456 billion. The entire S&P added about 482. One named at 95% of the index's day. That's not a market. That's a weighting.
Salesforce bridged most of the rest, 36.7 billion. Software was the stealth bid. The iShares software ETF jumped 7.3. CrowdStrike closed 227.96, up 20.5. Okta up 28.6. That's not one stock. That's a stack.
It's one sector. Information technology was the only one of 11 S&P groups in the green, up 3.4. 10 finished red, late NYSE internals, decliners 1510, advancers 1136. I cannot believe I get paid to watch a 7/10 up day that's actually a down market with a chip glued to the top. I love it. It's also the number that keeps me up because duration didn't leave. 10-year finished, 467. That's not risk. On!
I didn't call it risk on. I called it a demand quarter. Those can share a session with ugly breadth. They did yesterday.
Ugly breath is the tell that the rest of the book didn't believe the 70%. What does 171 advancers do to your November multiple if Warsh talks like 3.3 core is a problem?
It makes me smaller in the index and happier in the name. Same ranking I've had all week. Cash over adjectives. The cash printed. The adjectives are at 10.
Devil's advocate, Marcus. If one name is 95% of the S&P's market cap change, buying the index is buying Nvidia. That's not diversification. That's a single name decision wearing an ETF wrapper. Why isn't that her concentration warning?
Because the alternative is pretending 89 billion of data center didn't happen. So the equal weight can feel honest. I'd rather own the thing that's booking the build than the equal weight that's funding it. Breath that doesn't catch up today is information. It's not a short.
It's a warning. VIX at 14.5 with 10 sectors. Red is the market charging you almost nothing to be wrong. I love a cheap option. I also think it's the most dangerous print on the board because the cheap option is sitting under a chair who dropped forward guidance.
14.5 is not a crisis. It's a session that already decided the print was real and hasn't decided the speech is.
Hasn't decided. That's the whole show.
Correct.
Software, because Thursday didn't end at the close. Salesforce first, then the after-hours split. Opposite sides of the same night. Marcus, Benioff sentence.
This is not the SaaSpocalypse. Revenue 1135 billion, up 11, a raise, and they launched Quadforce with Anthropic. Best session since August 2020, up more than 21. Software spent months trading like Agentic A. I would hollow out the installed base. One night answered that. CrowdStrike's record, 333 million of net new ARR, is the same answer in security. I'm not retiring a multi-month multiple compression on 120% day. The bear case took a hit. It has to earn back.
Quality, Marcus. The midday note had a 253A share benefit from gains on strategic investments inside the non-GAAP. That's their version of Nvidia's 7.8. A beat that sounds like a venture book is not the same as a beat that sounds like seats.
Seats still grew 11. The raise still happened. Parse the quality. Don't throw out the print.
After the bell. Elastic jumped about 18. Workday dropped about 5. Autodesk about 6. Rubrik about 10 after a double-digit cash session gain. That's not a software bid. That's a sorting.
Elasticsearch. A. iPrint was treated as a genuine reacceleration. 70 cents versus 58. Remaining performance obligations up 21. Workday beat the quarter, then guided third quarter subscription to 12%. That's a deceleration. Autodesk beat, then guided third quarter EPS, light of the 314 consensus. After Salesforce already ran, good. Not great got sold. I love a tape that sorts. I also think yesterday's software, ETF surge was Nvidia. Adjacent until Workday said 12.
Or it's company-specific, which is what a healthy market is supposed to do. Elastic reaccelerated. Workday, slow to point. Those can both be true. Rubrik tumbling 10 after hours after writing the cyber cohort is the same lesson. The cohort was CrowdStrike's 333 million, not a free ride for every name that rhymes with security.
What does 12% Workday do to your SaaS is a live read, if that's the confirmation print you wanted?
It makes the confirmation narrower. Salesforce answered cannibalization. Workday answered growth. Those were never the same question. I wanted both. I got one. I'm not pretending I got both.
Consumer, quickly, because it sat on the same after-hours tape, and I will not let it become a grocery hour. Gap surged about 16. Affirm about 9. Then we moved.
Gap brand comps 10%, 10th straight quarter. Old Navy down 4. They raised the year. That's last week's checkout line split again. The namesake is spending. The value banner is choosier. Affirm, revenue up. 33, GM, V up 36. The shopper is not dead. The wallet is picky. I am not retiring the real income story because Gap had a good night.
I didn't ask you to retire it. I asked you to stop using it as a veto on a 108 billion guide. Ross printed 10 on traffic last week. BJ's ticket paid. Gap brand just printed 10. That's substitution holding, not breaking. File it. Rank it. Third.
Rank it third again. I dare you. Walmart still lost 9% last week on a 2.6 comp.
And Gap just made 16 after hours. Different banner. Same week. I'm ranking the print in front of me.
Marvell. After the bell, into an 8.7 Nvidia session, and this morning the stock is the thing actually moving the futures. Reuters had shares down more than 6 after hours. Bloomberg had more than 7 in extended trading. NASDAQ 100 futures off about 0.3 overnight. That's the hangover. Marcus, the numbers, then why the tape spat it out.
2.74 billion against about 271. Adjusted 94 cents against 92. Data center up 46% to 217 billion. Third quarter 315 billion against a street look near 304. They raised fiscal 2027 and 2028 again. Reuters had about 12 billion for 2027, up from 11.5, and about 18 for 2028, up from 16.5. On paper, that's a beaten raise in the same cycle. Nvidia just re-rated.
On paper. A stock that has nearly tripled this year treated a beat as confirmation already in the price. Reuters said the raise wasn't a meaningful increase to the long-term outlook despite a major new Google AI chip agreement, and the big impact lands more in fiscal 2029 and beyond. 2029. That's the duration chair's favorite year. I love it. It's also why this name is not Nvidia.
It's why the bar moved. After an 8.7 session in the GPU complex, a 3% raise gets sold. That's not a demand miss, that's a multiple that already did the work. Broadcom reports Wednesday, September 2nd. Marvell is the preview, not a substitute. If the cash session follows Nvidia, last night was positioning. If it follows the 7% fade, custom silicon has to prove the Google warrant in the numbers.
Give me a level. Cash session. What does Marvell have to do for your bar moved, read to hold?
Don't give back the whole 7. Open ugly, recapture half, close red but not crushed, and I'll call it a hangover. Close down another handle on volume, and she's right that custom is a duration trade with one hero, and the hero is in Santa Clara, not here.
I'm not asking for a crash. I'm asking whether semiconductors follow yesterday's Nvidia tape or last night's Marvell tape. Those are two different groups this morning. SMH rose about 3.1 yesterday, Broadcom 4.5, Intel 4.4. A 7% Marvell fade overnight is the first disagreement inside the followership.
What does a Google deal that pays in 2029 do to your 480 if the 10-year is still 467 at 9:30?
It makes 480 louder. A custom silicon story whose incremental revenue sits 3 fiscal years out is exactly the claim you discount when the long end is the constraint. That's not a vibe. That's the
arithmetic. I know. Arithmetic isn't a forecast. You keep using a formula as a prediction. The formula says if rates rise because growth is stronger, the numerator can offset. Yesterday's numerator offset. Today's speech is whether the rate rise is inflation or just a mountain with a theme.
Some of it's 40 trillion of debt and a buyback that still doesn't start until September 9th. Don't you dare turn 467 into a victory lap because Nvidia said 70. 467 is 13 basis points under the number I put on Sunday, and the chair hasn't opened his mouth.
Easy. That split stays open. I'm not resolving custom versus GPU at 6, and I'm not resolving duration versus demand either. Tiebreak, loud. Watch 480 on the 10-year against 220 on Nvidia through today's close. Watch Marvell's cash session versus last night's fade. If Warsh talks like inflation is the constraint, Ashley's hike option is still the week's organizing fact. If he talks like payments and sits on his hands, Marcus's demand can live here is. We won't know at 10:01. Don't come in at 10:15 pretending the call ended on the first paragraph.
Wouldn't.
10:15 is a headline. 4 o'clock is a close. I'm ranking the close.
Duration? Because we have been a chip desk for 20 minutes and the bond market did not leave with Nvidia's open. 10-year yesterday, 467. 7-year auction, high yield 4.512. A modest tail to a 4508 win issued, highest 7-year stop since December 2024. Bid to cover 250 average, indirect 60.8%, down from 70.2 in July. Ashley, pass or warning?
It's a market that took the paper and didn't love the price. Indirect stepping back as the overseas bid, blinking. A tail is not a blow-up. It's also not the ease that was supposed to paper over a 70% guide.
That's a pass. You're addressing a pass as a warning.
Wednesday's PCE did not leave. Headline, 0.2 and 3.7 hotter than the call. Core, 0.2 and 3.3, the reacceleration I wanted after June's 1/10. Claims were a non-event, 203,000 against 208. That's not the bond market celebrating AI. That's the bond market sitting still while equities did a single-name party, and I am so here for whether Warsh pretends those rooms are separate. They're not.
Sitting still is not breaking. 467 is 13 basis points under your Friday number and 7 under last Friday's 474. The squeeze you keep declaring dead still has a pulse. Until the 10-year holds 480 on a session that isn't a grocery crash and isn't a sanctions headline, you have a loud week, not a new regime. I said that Sunday. I'm saying it into a podium now.
Last Sunday you said if they beat and still can't hold 214, my cost of capital read is the week. They beat. They held. The 10-year didn't come with them. That's the point of duration. The stock can rip and the discount rate can still be the constraint on everything else. 10 sectors, red. That's the constraint showing up in the other 10.
Or that's the other 10 funding a squeeze, which is what a one-sector day is. You're treating sector rotation as a verdict on 2028 growth. It's a verdict on today's flows.
Flows that didn't confirm. That's the
session, not the cycle. Don't promote a Thursday into a regime.
Translate duration again, because we have new listeners and a 4-hour clock. One sentence. Ashley.
When the long bond yield goes up, the stuff whose money arrives years from now gets cheaper today. even if the business didn't get worse. Nvidia at 70% is still a claim on 2028. A grocery store is a claim on Tuesday.
Marcus, is 467 the pause, or is 480 still the test?
480 is still the test. She picked it. I'm not moving it because the print was good. If Warsh pushes it through this afternoon, she has the better read on the week even if I have the better read on the company. I can live with that sentence. I could not live with pretending 96 billion didn't print.
I'll take that sentence.
It's not a gift. It's a ranking.
Oil, because it was the third chair on Sunday and it quietly left the building. WT. I closed yesterday at 83.62, up 1.7 after last Friday's 87 handle. Overnight it was near 83, off a bit. Distillate still about 14% light. Gold near 4,660, Bitcoin around 80,000. Did Hormuz just stop mattering, or did the paper trade roll over?
Paper crude sold the corridor. That's our commodities desk, not me guessing. Last week's 94, Brent was a sanctions and ships number. This week's 83 WTI is a fade. I'm not running oil as the week. I'm running it as the lag into headline PCE. Gold is a Jackson Hole metal today. If it holds 4,600 into the speech, the fiscal channel is still open.
File oil third. I'll keep filing it third. 83 is not 94. I'm not building a hike on a barrel that already gave back the headline.
You ranked it third on Sunday. You got the ranking. You did not get to retire the lag.
I didn't retire the lag. I retired the panic.
Human B, because we have been a bond desk, a chip desk, and an oil desk, and it's Friday. Sunday, I drank cold coffee on purpose. Last night, I made a hot pot like a person who has learned nothing, and I am still going to be watching a speech from a mountain none of us are on.
Hot is growth. I'm proud of you.
Don't oversell it. It's coffee.
It's a process. I thought you respected a process.
I respect the close. Coffee is a leading indicator at best.
Back to it. Bloomberg had U.S. stock index futures slipping and Treasury steady as traders avoided big bets before Warsh. NASDAQ 100 contracts down about 0.3. S&P futures roughly flat. Dow futures a little green. Marvell down more than 7 in extended trading. That's not a crash open. That's a room waiting.
Waiting is not calm. Waiting is loaded.
Chicago PM. I at 9:45. Consensus near 57.8. Then 10 o'clock. Warsh, final Michigan near 51, and the BLS, preliminary benchmark revision to March payrolls. Last year's preliminary was minus 911,000. Don't invent this year's. Ashley, the speech. What you need to hear, not what you want to hear.
I need to hear whether 3.3 core is a problem.
That's the whole ask.
Axios last night. He's under pressure to give a clearer message at 10 than he has so far on inflation, on near-term hikes, and on the Fed and Treasury. Reuters asked the only question that matters, is current inflation a problem or not? UBS told clients they don't expect forward guidance. Mark Cabana at Bank of America expects him to signal he's prepared to raise if inflation doesn't keep moderating. I love this setup. I also think it's the scariest first Jackson Hole in my career because a chair who dropped traditional forward guidance is about to talk financial innovation while headline PCE is 3.7. If he does payments and task forces, that's a dodge. If he does inflation, 480 is back on the table before lunch.
Slow down. A first-year chair does not redefine the framework in front of every central banker on earth, on a theme he picked because he can actually own it. Financial innovation is a topic. 5 task forces. First principles. That's the speech he wanted. The speech you want is a hike paragraph. Don't trade the speech you want.
I'm not trading a paragraph. I'm trading whether he thinks 3.3 is a problem.
I'd watch the questions more than the speech. Same sentence I used 2 Sundays ago because he still hasn't filled in the blank piece of paper. He called it that himself. A blank page that stays blank is still my base. A blank page that suddenly has a hike paragraph is the surprise. Cabana can expect a signal. UBS can expect no guidance. Both notes can be right in the same hour.
That's not a dodge. That's
a chair who told you he doesn't do adjectives as a put. Correct. Don't make it a hike.
Press you both. Beth Hammock, voting member, told CNBC yesterday that inflation has run above target for several years and now is the time for the Fed to act. Jeffrey Schmidt said Wednesday that policy is very accommodating. That's 2 regional presidents talking like the option is live. Why isn't that already the speech, Marcus?
Because regional presidents are not the chair, and the chair has spent 3 months refusing to be a weather report. CME. FedWatch, Thursday, had about 34% on a September cut. Sunday, we had 35% on a hike. That's a market that still thinks hold is the middle of the room. A hike is a live coin. It's not the base case. Until Warsh writes the sentence, Hammack and Schmid are commentary.
34% on a cut and 35 on a hike is not a middle. That's a committee that dissented 3 to hold last month, a chair who withheld his own dot, and a market that has no red on the baseline. Friday is the first time they get one in the mountains. I cannot believe we have to wait until 10 to find out whether he thinks 3.7 headline is a rounding error. It's not a rounding error.
3.7 headline had oil in it. Core was in line. You keep quoting the hotter face. I keep ranking the one the Fed actually uses. Core 2/10 is not a disaster. It's the number we both said we'd sit up for. I sat up. I did not stand.
You'll sit. I'll be standing.
I know.
What would actually change your mind today? Print, speech, level, not a vibe. Ashley first.
He talks. Like inflation is the constraint, not a task force slide, and the 10-year looks through 475 into the close. Then the hike option is the weak, even if Nvidia holds 220. If he does payments, the 10-year fades back through 465, and Nvidia holds. I had a loud Friday morning and a quiet Friday afternoon, and I'll say so.
He stays boring, or at least leaves the hike on the shelf, and Nvidia holds 220 through the bell. Then demand survived the mountain. If he writes the hike paragraph and the stock can't hold 220, I hand her the week without a footnote. Marvell closing crushed on top of that would just be the custom silicon confirmation of the same sentence.
Write that down.
Don't frame it.
Chicago PMI is the undercard. A 57 handle is not going to outrank a chair. Michigan at 51 is mood, and we already ran mood versus activity last week. The payrolls benchmark is the sleeper. If that revision is another giant minus, labor is less tight than the monthly prints advertised, and her hike option has a problem. If it's small, we already knew labor was tight. Don't trade a revision you haven't seen.
Fair. I'll wait for the minus. I will not wait to care about the speech.
Nobody asks you to wait to care. We ask you to wait to crown.
Calls. Next session, checkable by Monday's close, not today's open. The weekend sits in between. Make them survive Saturday. Ashley.
10-year closes. Monday at or above 4.72. That's yesterday's 467 plus a Warsh premium. I can actually grade. If he talks inflation and the benchmark is still under 465 by Monday's bell, the hike option didn't price and I will own it. If it closes through 472, the Sunday 480 wasn't early. It was a day early and the week was still cost of capital.
Marcus.
Nvidia holds 220 through Monday's close. The 70% guide does not get walked back by one speech and a weekend of takes. If Warsh can knock that under 220 by Monday's bell, her duration red just won the week. If it holds, the numerator survived the mountain. Same ranking, cash over a podium. I'm running it once more on the name that already paid.
You're ranking a chip close over the long end again?
I'm ranking a number I can mark on Monday over an adjective from Wyoming. Same idea, different zip code.
Wyoming is still going to try.
Wyoming can get in line. It already had its chance to be first in the script. It was second.
The split doesn't close because a Friday needs a bow. She thinks this is still a cost of capital week. Sticky PCE, a one sector close, a chair who won't give you a put. He thinks demand already won. 96 billion, 108.70%, and a mountain speech doesn't unbook the wafers. Watch 480 on the 10-year against 220 on Nvidia through today's close. If the 10-year is through 480, even with Nvidia green, Ashley has the better read. If it stays under 470 and Nvidia holds 220, Marcus does. It's mixed at 4 o'clock.
You won't get it.
Mixed is still a cop-out.
Here's today in one breath. Warsh at 10, first Jackson hole his chair, 18 days to the September sitting. Nvidia closed 227.98, up 8.7. 10 sectors red. Marvell beat, raised, and got sold. S&P closed 7,731. 10-year 467. Ashley is 14 and 17, 480, still live into the bell. Marcus is 18 and 13, plus 1, 220 is the hold. If the show helps, follow Nova Ventures Daily wherever you get your podcasts and catch our live takes all day at Nova Ventures CEO on X. That's your Nova Ventures morning brief. Have a great day, and we'll see you Monday.